I think we can all agree that the Diablo series has never been afraid of change. Each of these entries has really prioritized online play, permadeath characters, really dark and bleak storylines, and incredible art. But Diablo 4, this is a massive, massive departure. This is much more like an MMORPG with a perpetually online world. Lots of focus on how you yourself are building your individual character, and a lot of rewarding depth if you're willing to embrace the toughest challenges. I have now played 50 hours of Diablo 4, and I want to discuss this with a very critical eye. I'm a Diablo mega fan. I've grown up playing these games, and during the course of this video, before it came out, I decided to actually replay Diablo 2 and Diablo 3 to actually look at this and do a brutally honest review. I love Diablo 4 a lot, but I feel like if you really appreciate something, you also need to be able to beat it up. Let's discuss. What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here. Hi, hope you're having a great day. If you could like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. So for this, we're going to try and break this into 3 separate chunks. We're going to talk story, we're going to talk gameplay, and we're going to talk end game. A major focus of a lot of Blizzard titles is, okay, what do I do after I've saved the world? What kind of character am I actually going to build? And how many hours will I play it after I've defeated the last boss? Diablo 4 is a freaking staggeringly big game. Even after racking up so much time in it, I haven't even unlocked the entire map. The amount of depth, the amount of dungeons, the amount of crazy random events that pop up, this is a big game. But let's start things off by discussing in a spoiler-free fashion the story itself and discuss this art. I do think that the storylines in Diablo games have very much been amazing. I enjoy the tales of Deckard Cain. I enjoy the lore about, the Haradrim and lost cultures and this infinite eternal clash between heaven and hell. But I actually have to say, I like the story of Diablo 4 way more than the others because it has this obsessive bleakness. This is a dark story. You are screwed, your family's screwed, everybody on the timeline is completely screwed, but I actually think it's told in a way that very much gets its hooks in you. It does feel like you need to save the world of Sanctuary. It is up to us and our friends to actually battle the forces of evil. And it does some interesting stuff to achieve that. One of the things that definitely impressed me most is that when you first make your character, there's 5 separate classes to choose from. There's the rogue, the barbarian, the sorceress, the necromancer, and the druid. Now, each of these different characters are wildly different, from the skills of the barbarian and wielding multiple weapons, to the necromancer's skills to actually raising the dead, to the sorceress's embracing of different magical abilities. I like the fact that not only do these characters look different and play different, but the stories feel different because these different cultures, these different factions, these different jobs exist in the story itself. You will find druid towns and necromancer cults and find people that are actually trying to save the world, and optionally, you can interact with them to get some extra dark lore. Previous Diablo games still had incredibly cool plot lines. I really appreciated them for what they are, but now we actually have full-blown crazy cutscenes with your character interacting with heroes and villains and stuff. It definitely feels, for the first time, like you are a part of the story and not just absorbing it. Now, I say this as a person that actually read all the Diablo books. I'm a huge fan of the Diablo stories. I mean, I've got a giant necromancer tattoo on my arm. It's cool to see them really pay this off, but more importantly, I'm glad they brought back the incredibly dingy style of art. Now, for this video, I decided to go back and completely beat Diablo 2 and Diablo 3 again. Those games are some of my favorite experiences I've ever had in video games, and while playing through Diablo 2, it is a very, very dark game. It's got gore, it's got thick shadows, it's got lots of very crazy flame effects and stuff. Diablo 2 was meant to scare you, and in a lot of ways, I think it achieved that. Diablo 4 follows in the footsteps of Diablo 2. It wants to be spooky. It wants to make you hesitate before you charge headlong into an area that you know might be slightly too tough, because not only will you die, it does have that cool vibe where you're like, oh man, this place is messed up, and that's freaking glorious to see it return. Now, I do want to talk a lot about the gameplay and the leveling systems of this, because character progression is incredibly important to the Diablo franchise. It's not just about beating the game, it's not just about leveling up, it is about how you choose to build your character. So while you're playing this game, obviously it is a dungeon crawler. You're trying to explore, you're trying to blow stuff up, but there's a lot of interesting randomized elements. As you go across the map, it's constantly just popping up events. Times where you're trying to help a ghost reunite with its lost loved one to find peace while demons are attacking it. Times where random caravan people are getting eaten by goatmen, and if you can defend them, the more that survive, the more loot you get. There's this layer of existence, of permanence that is just in Diablo 4 that I find to be very fascinating, where as you're going about, it does feel like your interactions with this world matter. And it does give you some good rewards. Actually doing these randomized events gives you some of the best random loot you're going to find. Now, while doing this game, there is a lot of RNG. A lot of items, when you get them, have different rarity scales. Yellow, orange, epic, legendary, and essentially, the higher the rarity, the more skills, the more stats, the more it's going to boost your character. But this is by far the most addictive aspect of this game, is that you really have no idea what you're going to get and how it will fundamentally change how you play. At one point, I discovered a pair of boots that let me use my blood mist ability to detonate corpses. Now, let me explain what that means. As a necromancer, I have a spell that has a very long cooldown that turns me into a little cloud of blood. Okay, on its surface, that's pretty good. It can heal, I'm immune to damage, but now there is an additional layer to that, which is corpse explosion. So whenever I kill people, I can detonate their bodies like a landmine. So combining these skills makes it where I can just float along in the middle of boss fights or in big sloppy encounters and detonate everything around me cleanly and safely. And it's such an interesting skill that is so powerful, it fundamentally changed how I played my character. I ended up rebuilding my entire talent tree. So every time you hit another level, you get an extra talent point from levels 1 to level 50. Now, a lot of these skills are passives, stuff where you can make it where you deal more damage. Your minions are stronger. If you're able to actually blow up a corpse, it automatically gives you extra mana. I like the fact that when you're building your character, it does come down a lot of times to your limited buttons. You only have 6 skills on your taskbar at a time, and that's the only skills you can use while they're there. Like if you want to throw some bone spears that detonate, you need to have that quick and handy on your bar. You can't exactly be quick swapping talent points in the middle of a boss fight. It is cool to see that you really have to find your groove, find your lane. You have to figure out what works best for you, your talents, and your teammates. Now, the biggest downside to this review process period is that I've been playing this game for weeks before the game actually comes out. I've had the access to the game since like mid-May. And while I have enjoyed playing this game so dang much, obviously, I'm not getting the full experience. This is an online game. You're supposed to be seeing people wandering around in the streets. I did get a chance to team up with some other reviewers here and there, but for the most part, there is stuff in this game that right now I just can't do. There is massive world bosses and stuff that while I was able to run up to them, and sometimes I'd see a random Kotaku or IGN employee get smashed into applesauce, for the most part, I played this game completely single player. And even then, it was a fun experience, actually figuring out not just what to do and where to go, but how to do it. Now, I want to discuss endgame. A major focus of a lot of Blizzard titles is not just how am I going to play? How fun is it? It does come down to how many hours can I spend grinding this? This game has an intense amount of depth, mostly because once you actually beat the game, they start to unlock the extra difficulties. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. These are hard. These are very, very, very tough. Now, maybe it's because I'm playing this by myself. Maybe it's intended to be done co-op or whatever. These are hard. Once you beat the main campaign, you unlock these special dungeons that, if you finish, unlock extra difficulties that lock the enemy at much higher levels and make it so that when you're playing, you're going to have a bad time. Like, if you're not properly leveled, paying attention, really caffeinated, these extra difficulty levels are insane. But if you manage to survive them, you get the best items in the game. And it also unlocks just crazy amounts of extra depth. There are PvP zones where killing mobs and monsters and other players gives you blood shards that'll give you new random high-level gear. There's this thing called the Tree of Whispers. After you beat the main game, it starts to just do random dungeons with random extra difficulty options. They're called nightmare dungeons. So all over the place, there's tons of just random crypts and tombs and stuff that you can explore with randomized objectives in them. But a lot of times with these nightmare difficulty twists, it makes it so that enemies will have more shields, they'll shoot more lasers, they'll be more plentiful. It is crazy that this is the kind of game that wants you to log in again and again and again for the rest of your life. I mean, already there's talks about the fact that they're wanting to implement battle passes and stuff and seasons to make sure that you constantly are not only beating this game, but creating new characters, diving back in, making that journey from the very start. And I like that, but I do think it's time to discuss the actual downsides of Diablo IV, to talk about the parts of this that definitely worry me the most. Now that it's time to discuss the most difficult aspect of this, let's try and cleanse the air. So this is apparently a blood candle. It's supposed to smell like actual blood. Got my little demonic Satan lighter. All right, I'm ready to absorb the powers of Lilith. This is a Blizzard game, which does come with some additional baggage that I feel like is important to address. Blizzard, for the most part, is a very good game company at getting their hooks in you, making games that feel so good to play for 5 minutes or 5 hours every single day, right? I mean, we've all played Blizzard games. We know what that's like. But there is the downside to it that I think that we realize Blizzard is incredibly freaking greedy. As soon as their games stop making enough profit, they will cancel features, they'll cut projects, they'll kill games, they'll add in tons of microtransactions, and this isn't hypothetical. They've done that just this week. Literally, as I filmed this video just a couple days ago, they've announced that the Overwatch 2 PvE mode is now completely cut just because the game wasn't making enough profit, and even things like World of Warcraft Classic, they've decided to start selling gold, which has completely broken the economy. As it currently exists, I do enjoy Diablo IV a lot. I think it's cool, but I am worried about the fact that if this game is not a huge success for some reason, if not enough people are interacting with the store mounts and paid for cosmetics, I do worry that they're going to add in extra microtransactions, maybe selling gear, selling talent points, selling craftable stuff. And to me, that is a thing I think we need to be aware of. Additionally, this is an always online experience, which means that it is weird to think about that while this current iteration of the game, in my opinion, is freaking awesome, patches can break stuff. Your favorite class may be great or suck depending on the season. And that is a bit weird. You can't play this completely by yourself. You have to constantly be connecting to the Blizzard servers. I do also find it a bit weird that there's so many future promised features that are not in the game as it currently exists. There is definitely enough here to sink your teeth into. It's cool that you can actually go to town and craft potions, collect materials, break down some pieces of gear to enchant or enhance your other systems. It is cool that this game has such an immense amount of depth and tinkering that exist on day one, but it is a bit weird that the developers are already talking about future iterations, saying that magic building, something like runes, are going to be introduced later, item sets. I just wish that we had a bit more idea about, all right, how much of this game is going to warp and change. As it stands, though, I do like this game a lot. I do think it's incredibly cool, especially because once you think this game is over, it's really just beginning. After finishing the main story, beating all the dungeons I could find, unlocking a lot of passive bonuses and stuff, once you hit level 50, the total cap, the final level you hit, is level 100, but you only get talent points from 1 to 50. 50 to 100, it unlocks a thing called Paragon. These are crazy stat bonus talent trees that are incredibly complicated. I mean, I'll just say straight up, I spent a lot of time staring at this and I don't fully grasp it. I'm kind of excited for this game to come out and for people to start maxing it out to figure out optimal talent tree Paragon boards, because as it stands, it is wild that you can make so many different styles of each and every character. I am going to buy this game on PlayStation 5. I'm definitely going to buy the $100 early access special edition because I want to play this game immediately. This character I made technically gets deleted the day I release this video. Blizzard gave me early access to it, and that's great, but now I actually have to play the game again with all of you guys, and I'm excited to do it. Balancing seems good. Combat seems great. Story seems incredibly messed up. As it stands, I love Diablo IV. As a fan, I think it's really cool, and I hope it continues to improve. I hope this becomes that next pillar of the Blizzard tree. I hope it keeps actually emphasizing the power of turning a game into an MMO properly. I will admit that I'm feeling a bit conflicted about how to even score a game like this, because as much as I relish in the time I've spent with it, I am playing a pre-release build. I don't know if they're going to add your game full of microtransactions or weird talent point changes and stuff like that. As it stands, I would say I'd give this game a 9 out of 10. I really, really appreciate it. I do think that some of the leveling gets a bit wonky. 40 to 50 specifically is a really rough grind. I do think they wait too long to give you the mount. This game is so freaking huge, and they do not give you an actual horse to ride on till like very near the end of the game. And sometimes walking from place to place got a bit old. This game, though, is definitely worth the money to me. And I'm putting my money where my mouth is because I'm definitely going to buy it. And even after putting 50 hours into it, I'm excited to start a fresh character with all of you guys and do it again. Okay, but what do you guys think about the nature of Diablo? Is this cool? Is this bad? Tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, give it a big old thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. And please keep dreaming. I'm filming this video at 2 a.m. like a totally normal person after putting in so many hours. Even today, I played this game for like 7 hours. Blizzard, how do you make games that are so damn addictive? Is there crack? Is there crack in my controller? You have to tell me legally.